All right, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another one of our Israelites Gathering Shabbat studies. My name is Yadon Yasharal. I'm with my brother Kased Yasharal. Shabbat Shalom, Mark. How you doing?
Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, things is going good. Like you say, sometimes no good news no news is good news. And when you have a chance and just to, enjoy the things of Yah and experience his peace is always a good thing. So praise Yah for that.
Hallelujah. Praise Yah for that. Indeed. Um, you know, uh, while you get a moment of peace, and Yah willing, it'll be at least on your Shabbat. You gotta really appreciate that opportunity to rest your mind from your burdens, because your burdens, they don't disappear, but at least under the faith in the Most High and obedience, you can get that peace in your life. The peace that Mashiach said, "Look, I leave you peace, not the peace that the world gives you, but I leave you a different type of peace." So praise Yah for that. Sometimes you can't get that; it's just not possible. So when you do have it, enjoy it, because that's what you need to recharge. The title of our Shabbat study today is War of the Strait. War of the Strait. Strait spelled Strait. We got to play on that word for straight. We know we have the ongoing conflict in the Strait of Hormuz, which is with Iran in that area between United States and the country of Israel, the state of Israel. Um, a lot of supplies and shipping and including oil, which is what they're really concerned about, goes through that strait to the Middle East and abroad. It connects that. So it's a battle over controlling the flow of resources, that gives life. So you got that play on straight. Then you also have the straight gate, entering through the straight gate and not the wide gate, because wide is the path of destruction. So you have the war going on to prevent you from going through the straight gate. Meanwhile, you have this month in which they've hijacked the month and called it the so-called Pride Month. And we know that pride comes before a big fall. So these are all those different things that we're making plays on with the War of the Strait. But if you don't know, you better pay attention. We are most definitely at war. And war isn't the whole time active combat battle. Sometimes it's reconnaissance. Sometimes it's campaigning and trying to get other objectives. But you need to know if you're at war. And right now, this country's at war, and you need to know who you at war with and who's supposed to be on your side. And that's the situation. So before we get started, if you haven't already, visit our website, israelitesgathering.com. Also download our mobile applications, Israelites Gathering, entitled, same thing for Android or for Apple. Also, to get started, as we talk about these cell phones and cell phone apps, I want to talk about something that is just hit the scene, the iPhone 17. So, many of us have iPhones. I got an iPhone. My wife got an iPhone. We big iPhone fans. And now we know Android is Google. They listening. iPhone is the eye literally watching you. We get it. But this is very concerning. So I'm going to pull this article up. So Apple has announced the iPhone 17e. And this iPhone is different. What's so different about this 17e? They're letting you know, at least telling you at this point. They may have been doing this for a long time, but they're telling you that this is with a chip developed in the state of Israel. The same country that's at war with Iran and supposedly, an ally of the United States. So why is that significant? Is this anti-Semitism? No, absolutely not. Why is this concerning? Well, do you remember your history? All right. They're saying the iPhone 17 supports Apple AI tools, faster wireless charging, so forth and so on. with this chip developed in Israel. Well, let's go back to 2024. In 2024, you had the Lebanon electronic device attacks. On the 17th and 18th of September 2024, thousands of handheld pagers and hundreds of walkie-talkies intended for use by Hezbollah exploded simultaneously in two separate events across Lebanon and Syria in an Israeli attack nicknamed Operation Grim Beeper. So the Israeli government crafted a secret operation called the Grim Beeper, where they use these handheld electronics to blow up. So right now, where we so-called holding hands with the state of the little hats, that can change quickly. You see what's going on, and you know how President Trump is so-called checking the prime minister. That relationship is very tense. If we cut that money off and they say, well, we're the one that control the actual money, there could be some conflict. And now with iPhone being the common usage, even on our app, I can see all the users and what application they signed up for, either iPhone or for Android. I can see that, and we like 90-something% iPhone. So this is popular. iPhone is popular. So we need to understand this going forward. And okay, that's Hezbollah, that's Lebanon. We don't want to talk about the other monstrosities that's going on in Lebanon right now, where they're dropping chemical warfare on farmers and innocent people and all kind of stuff that's illegal in war. Talking about they marking bomb locations, and this is causing severe problems. Well, let's move forward again to another situation. All right, so it's saying the state of Israel allowed smartphones to flood Gaza that are now exploding. So now you see a trend here. This is in 2025. So a year later, the end of 2025, November, around December, there's reports that cell phones that were allowed into Gaza, specifically through the Israel checkpoints, are blowing up on civilians, on children, on all kind of stuff. So this is a problem. Now, I'm not saying, hey, that's what they're doing. This is the claim. This is the information. This is the media we're putting out. So keep that in mind. All right. We already don't want to have cell phones and things like that and other things being made by countries we warring with. It's a conflict of interest when we're pushing that in from a country that's used that same technology to destroy their enemies. So just consider that, and consider what's going on. Ma'ak and I were talking right before class about this, about how the joint military, how they're literally merging Israeli and United States military. So these are all things to be concerned about that are conflicts of interest. So we bring these up not to take a stance. We take a stance for Yah and for this word and for our nation. But we also said, Mashiach said, be wise as a serpent. So we got to see how that snake is moving. But it said to be harmless as a lamb or harmless as dove. So with that being said, let's get into the class. Again, the title of the class is The War of the Strait. So let's define that. Let's get into that and see what we're talking about. Let's open up in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 32. Genesis chapter 32. And Salakia, forgive me if I respond to comments late, because the comments come in very, very late. So I don't get to see them. Sometimes they're halfway through the class, but I see some people coming on. Shabbat Shalom, sis Stephanie, good to see you. Shabbat Shalom, brother Yafi, Yehuda, good to see you, big bro. Shabbat Shalom, Amarish Haviva Bat, good to see you, sis. Shabbat Shalom, Seth Ado, and as always, special Shabbat Shalom, sis Sharita, good to see you as well. If I missed you, I apologize again. I'm for whatever reason, I don't see comments till like an hour and a half into the class. All right, so we're going to open up in Genesis, Bereshit. Let me go ahead and pull up the scripts. And we're going to open up in Bereshit 32, and let's read 22 through 32. So Bereshit, Genesis 32, 22 through 32. And again, this is an open forum. So if you have questions, comments, by all means, chime in righteously and decently as in order. And we'll try to get to your comment as fast as we can.
All right, Genesis chapter 32 and verse 20. And say you moreover, behold, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me, that afterward I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept me. So I went the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day.
All right, so he wrestled with a man. So specifically saying a man. So this ain't a spirit floating around in the air or a lion, eagle, a bird. I mean, he's wrestling with what he appears as a man. All right.
Verse 25. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him.
Okay, so what we got to understand is when you see that term wrestle, all right, again, these are parabolic meanings behind these things. Wrestle, what we see is Greco-Roman wrestling, you know, like Hulk Hogan and the wrestling team where these tights. Well, in the Greeks, how they wrestled naked, butt naked, in a gym full of butt naked people. Like that's the term we see wrestling. You sitting just grabbing each other all tight. Well, in martial arts, especially in Afro and Asiatic martial arts, wrestling is the term for anything to take your opponent down to the ground or in the competition, the mat. That's considered wrestling. If I threw a brick at your head and you fell down and hit the mat, that's where I wrestled you to the ground effectively. If I shot you, threw a knife at you, whether I kicked your legs out, punched you, made you fall in the hole, whatever it is to get you down to the ground is wrestling. So once you understand that concept, then wrestling is not just grappling. Okay, grappling is grappling. So in this particular situation, he's wrestling or grappling with this angel, which is techniques going on. And this angel with his high intelligence has done some kind of technique, which is likely some kind of hip lock, you know, where you in a hip lock, you have to isolate like any kind of dislocation of a leg or a bone. You have to isolate the limb. So you got to isolate the leg and you got to twist the body, twist the joint out. You got to force that leg in a situation where you step on it, grab it, grapple it, whatever, and then twist the body. And that will dislocate. And this is what's happening to this brother. So this angel has dislocated his literal leg. That is the most pain. The hip joint is literally the biggest joint in your body. So he's in pain. All right. So I'm breaking all this down for a reason. All right. Tamshi.
Verse 26. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go except you bless me.
All right. So he's in pain. When you in pain and somebody has you again, he said, let me go, because he has him in a lock. He's got him locked up one way or another, whether a leg lock, a grapple, a headlock or something. He's got him locked. And the angel's like, yo, let me go. So this man has dislocated your leg, and the angel's like, yo, let me go. And he's saying, no, I'm not letting you go with a dislocated hip. Anybody who's dislocated anything, understand that is one of the most painful pains you can be in for the moment until that bone goes back into the joint. So he's going through a high, extreme amount of pain, and he has enough understanding to say, bless me. I'm not letting you go until you bless me. All right, continue.
Verse 27. And he said unto him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, your name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, or Yasharah. For as a prince have you power with Elohim and with men, and have prevailed.
Praise Yah. So here's his blessing. His name was Supplanter in Yaakov, but now his name is Prince of Power, or the upright of the Most High, depending on which root words you want to use to create that whole Yasharah. So he had to literally fight. He had to endure pain, and he had to believe that he would receive the blessing that he deserved, knowing that this man who dislocated the angel, who dislocated his bone, could have killed him. All right, Tom Shee.
Verse 29. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray you, your name. And he said, wherefore is it that you dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Yasharal eat not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh and the sinew that shrank.
All right. So if anybody has ever had anything involving hip, or anything involving, the thighs. I remember when I was young, I used to live by a skating rink, and we were skating one time and we fell, and somebody kicked me in my hip, right in the joint with that hard skate. And boy, I couldn't walk for weeks. That's a painful injury. So I can imagine dislocation of that injury. So once you have a hip injury, hip surgery, hip anything like that, the largest joint in your body, the strongest joint in your body, you will never walk the same. So there's a message in that. You're going to have to fight a man, and that man is you. You're going to have to fight to take a hold of that blessing, peradventure that you receive that name of Yasharal, that you become Yasharal, because not all of Yasharal is Yasharal. And once you do that fight and get in that fight and take that name, it's going to be a painful process, and you will never walk the same. So that's just the introduction to the walk that you're going to have. So let's get another introduction. Let's get it more scriptural, where he's going to lay it out plain for you. Let's go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 1. 2nd Esdras, chapter 1. So we're going to go into the apocryphal books. That's in the 1611 King James Version, the original King James Version, and the Ethiopian Bible, the original writings. We're going to go into that, and we're going to look at 2nd Esdras, chapter 1. If you don't have access, shouts out to the Hicks family. We got a wonderful reading plan in there where you can get to the apocryphal books and you can read and have a reading plan right there from the app. Or if you need to download a copy, we have a copy in the library on the website and on the app that you can download and read along as well as some of the other books that are not in our reading plan that we do also teach out of. And just so you know, what do we teach out of? We teach out of the books that are written in Hebrew, the books that have Hebrew antiquity, which are mainly the books that come out of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is the Torah, the books that are mentioned in the Bible, like Book of Yashar and Jubilees, Enoch, all those things that are antiquity, and we try to use pre-Hellenic, pre-Greek influence as the standard. So that's what we read out of. All right, so we're Second Ezra chapter 1. Let me get in the right Bible first of all. Second Ezra chapter 1. And we're going to read verses 1 through 25.
Second Ezra chapter 1 and verse 1. The second book.
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Salakia, that is not what I wanted to read. Second Ezra chapter 7. Salakia. Second Ezra chapter 7.
And verse 1.
Yes, sir.
All right, Second Ezra chapter 7 and verse 1. And when I had made an end of speaking these words, there was sent unto me an angel which had been sent unto me the nights afore.
And we're going to read this through verse 25, brother.
Okay. And he said unto me, Up, Esdras, and hear the words that I am come to tell you.
All right, so if you're not aware, Cedrus is Ezra. It's the same prophet. They just broke his book up. They decided to pull out a lot of the history and just rewrite his name. All right, Tamshi.
And I said, Speak on, my Elohim. Then said he unto me, The sea is set in a wide place, that it might be deep and great. But put the case, the entrance were narrow and like a river. Who then could go into the sea to look upon it and to rule it? If he went not through the narrow, how could he come into the broad?
All right, so there's a straight entrance into the sea. The sea don't just start with, and it said put the case. So in other words, imagine the sea has a narrow entrance, and that's the only way you can get into the sea is through this narrow entrance. Well, how are you going to get to do the great things as far as being a ruler of the sea, or look at the beauty of the ocean, of the open ocean, and the sea animals and islands and all type of things? How are you going to do that if you don't go through the narrow? How are you going to get to the wide place where all the great things are? All right, Tamshi.
Verse 6. There is also another thing. City is builded and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water. And one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. Verse 9. If this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he shall never pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance? And I said, It is so, master. Then said he unto me, Even so also is Yasharal's portion. Because for their sakes I made the world, and when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Then were the entrances of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, full of perils, and very painful.
All right. So again, he's giving you this parable that, again, just like the ocean, well, instead of the ocean, you have this kingdom. You have New Jerusalem sitting right there, but the entrance thereof is narrow. And the way there is a very dangerous place to fall into, like, fire on the right hand and a deep water on the left to drown. I mean, if it's very deep, how you can only swim so long, right? And there's only one way between. which is this narrow path. And then he says, all right, let's get to the point. Even so is Yasharal's portion. Your portion, in order for you to get to your portion, you're going to have to go through that straight and narrow, dangerous path. Where if you go off to the left or off to the right, it's painful death. All right. It wasn't always that way. In the ancient times, it was, you didn't know all this wickedness. It was only one way. Yah said, do this. That's all you knew to do. So it was a wide entrance. You didn't know to go left or right. You only knew to go forward. And then because of the transgression now, the entrances are made narrow and it's full of sorrow and travail. All right. Tamshi.
Verse 13. For the entrances of the elder world were wide and sure, and brought immortal fruit. If then they that labor not to enter these straight and vain things, they can never receive those that are laid up for them.
So if you're not going to labor, if you're not going to work to enter this straight, then how are you going to receive the things that are on the other end? So there's many talents and blessings and gifts that we have that we will never be able to attain onto because we refuse to labor. We refuse to work. We refuse to fight against the flesh. We refuse to go fight against the evil. We refuse to go out there and fight against our fear and our anxiety and our setbacks and our financial situation, our mental situation, our spirit. We refuse to labor. But we want all those things laid up for us. Now, you can be emotional and think that, well, all things are mine and it's all going to be mine and I'm going to get it because I want it. But the reality is we are told what we must do in order to receive it. And even if we try and do all that, it still requires grace and mercy to even get there. But at least we can affect that by trying to go after that. So it's telling you this straight. So that's the first play on words, this straight gate. All right, Tamshi.
Verse 15. Now, therefore, why disquietest you yourself, seeing you are but a corruptible man? And why are you moved, whereas you are but mortal? Why have you not considered in your mind this thing that is to come, rather than that which is present? Then answered I and said, O master that bearest rule, you have ordained in your law that the righteous should inherit these things, but that the ungodly should perish. Nevertheless, the righteous shall suffer straight things and hope for wide. For they that have done wickedly have suffered the straight things, and yet shall not see the wide.
All right, so this is the difference. The righteous shall suffer straight things. What are these straight things? We hoping to stay on that narrow path, but the reality is we're going to fall off. And if you fall off because you go into the wrong, you just purposely trying to do the wrong thing, you might burn up, you might drown. But if you are in Mashiach, you are in his assembly, you are doing your best to labor and walk down this straight path, even how dangerous it is, then you may fall off, but guess what? You fall into grace and mercy. All right, verse 19.
And he said unto me, there is no judge above Elohim, and none that has understanding above the highest.
There's none above Yah. No man can judge you. So yeah, you fell off in the fire, you burned the bottom of your feet. Yeah, you fell in the water, you got a little wet. But guess what? Who hasn't? Who hasn't fallen off the path? There's no judge above Yah. Verse 20.
For there be many that perish in this life, because they despise the law of Elohim that is set before them.
All right, so let's see the law being that narrow path. So many perish in this life because they despise the narrow, because of the pain. Imagine if you were an athlete and you despise the pain of working out. You despise the pain of discipline. How you going to become a champion? Every champion knows you're going to have discipline and you're going to have to work through pain in order to grow, to gain muscle, to gain endurance. So it's the same thing with this word. How are you going to despise the law of Yah, which is the narrow path, and expect to win the championship?
Verse 21. For Elohim has given straight commandment to such as came, what they should do to live, even as they came, and what they should observe to avoid punishment.
So we got direct instruction. What no, we specifically, the nations got an excuse. We don't. We got straight commandment. I know, hey, be good. Love God. Love everybody. No, we got straight command. Well, how do you love Yah? How do you love your neighbor as yourself? They didn't get that. So we received that. And he said, if you do this, you avoid punishment. Didn't say you're going to avoid tribulation. Didn't say you're going to avoid pain. It rain on the just and the unjust. So you got to prepare. It's going to happen. But he said, this is how you can avoid the punishment. All right, so some of these comments are coming through. Shabbat Shalom to my brother Aaron Hicks. Shabbat Shalom to my lovely wife, Tafari Yasharah. Shabbat Shalom to my sis, Evie. Good to see you.
Second Esdras, or Ezra, chapter 7, verse 22. Nevertheless, they were not obedient unto him, but spake against him and imagined vain things.
They imagine vain things. So they imagine I can do whatever wickedness I want to do because I feel like it, but everything gonna be good. Go ahead.
And deceived themselves by their wicked deeds, and said of the Most High that he is not, and knew not his ways.
They'll tell you, oh, Yah not real. That's man-made. You can do what you want. All that weird doctrine, deceiving themselves and it's all why are they deceiving themselves? It's because they deeds. They don't want to believe they wicked. So you try to tell them, hey, this is what the word say. They getting mad at you because of their wicked deed, not because what you said, because their deeds don't match up with what is written. So they gonna get mad at you rather than get mad at the word. That's why the word become your word all of a sudden. It's your belief, your book. Go ahead.
Verse 24. But his law have they despised and denied his covenants. In his statutes have they not been faithful and have not performed his works.
All right. So you said, well, I don't despise the word. I don't despise the law. Okay. You deny his covenant. You despise this law. You deny his statutes. You despise this law. You not been faithful. You not performing his works, which is good deeds, righteousness. You despise the law. I don't care what you call yourself, Christian, Hebrew, Israelite, Muslim. Read that last verse.
And therefore, Ezra, for the empty are empty things, and for the full are the full things.
All right. And for the empty, the worthless are worthless things, vain things. And for the full, those full of the Spirit, is that full blessing that he talked about in Isaiah that eye has not seen and ear has not heard. You can't even imagine. That's for the people that are full of the Spirit, full of patience, full of faith, full of endurance, full of knowledge, full of wisdom, full of mercy. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to Lucas chapter 13. Let's let Mashiach clear this up for us. And we're going to read verses 22 through 35.
All right, Luke chapter 13 and verse 22. And he went through the cities and villages, teaching and journeying toward Jerusalem. Then said one unto him, Master, are there few that be saved? And he said unto them, Strive to enter in at the strait gate, for many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. When once the master of the house has risen up and has shut to the door, and you begin to stand without and to knock at the door, saying, Master, Master, open unto us. And he shall answer and say unto you, I know you not whence you are.
All right. So question is, hey, what is only going to be a few of us saved? You know, I thought the scripture say all of Yasharal is going to be saved. Oh, they will be saved, but you got to pair the other part. You can't cherry pick. All they of Yasharal are not Yasharal. Just because you bloodline don't mean you the children of the promise. So he's saying this is how you affect that. All right. Strive to enter in at the strait gate. For many, eventually, many people going to try to enter in that strait gate. When they realize, oh, wait, judgment here. Now you want to turn around. It's too late. The master going to say, I don't know you. How I know once you get through this strait gate, you're going to keep walking straight. You changing at the last minute. I can't depend on you. You like a source that got bitter water and sweet. I don't know what I'm going to get. I only got one shot. I got to go somewhere else. So it talks about striving to enter at the strait gate. So what does that mean to strive? So this is Greek. So let's look at the Greek word that was used for strive. All right. So the Greek word that was used for strive is agonizomai. 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 And that's from G73, to struggle, literally to compete for a prize, figuratively to contend with an adversary. And who's your adversary? Or in generally to endeavor to accomplish something, fight, labor, fervently strive. So Mashiach is telling you point blank, you're going to have to wrestle that angel. You're going to have to wrestle that man if you want that blessing. It's going to be a fight. And a fight is going to be with a man. That man is you. That's what that fight is. Even when you up against another man, you're really not fighting another man. You're fighting you. Because you have to determine what you're going to do with this vessel that you possess. You're going to use it to strive against your brother. You're going to use it to knock this other brother down. You're going to use it to evade. You're going to use it to talk life into somebody. You're going to use it to turn the other cheek. What you going to use it for? That's the fight. That's within you. And you got to make that decision according to these commandments, according to the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of righteousness. All right, Tamshi.
Verse 26. Then shall you begin to say, We have eaten and drunk in your presence, and you have taught in our streets. But he shall say, I tell you, I know you not whence you are. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity.
Well, I thought the law was nailed to the cross. Something ain't adding up, Christians. Why he telling, get away from me, you worker of iniquity? What's iniquity? Can anybody tell me, any of the viewers, I hope the comments coming on, what is iniquity according to the word? So this is a question for the viewers. What is iniquity? So if you're a worker of iniquity, what are you working? You're being mean? You're being evil? What is that? Not being equitable, not being equal? What is that? So I'm hoping that the comments will come in time. Depart from me, you worker of iniquity. He's telling these people, get away from me. Who are these people that are workers of iniquity? What is iniquity? I'm trying to give a few seconds, hoping that comments will catch up. All right, either the comments are that behind or we don't have an answer. So, Brother Cassette, what is iniquity?
I see a comment from Yafi Yehuda. He says sin was his answer.
Okay, praise y'all. And that is the correct answer. I don't know why I'm not seeing the comments. How you seen it over in the Netherlands before me, brother?
I'm on the Israelites gathering Facebook, so I don't know
Me
if that
too.
makes a difference. Huh,
Me too.
weird.
Wow.
Very
Anyways,
strange.
that is this brother in the Netherlands, in the nether part of the world, and he getting the comments before me. With my brother literally a few hours from me by plane flight. All right. Anyway, so iniquity. So he's if it's not adding up. If you saying you Christian, you can do whatever you want, you saved by him. He's telling the people that's working against the law, get away from him. All right, go ahead.
Verse 28 in Luke
Matter of
chapter
fact, we can
13.
stop. We can stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 6. So again, you're gonna have to fight. So what we gonna go around look for a man to fight and say, hey, give me the blessing. Bless me, give me your money, or I'm gonna fight you. No, that's not what that means. What is this fight? What is it about? How do we, affect this battle? So Ephesians chapter 6, let's read 10 through 20.
Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the master and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against
Salakia.
powers.
1 second.
Yep.
I didn't have the scripts up. All right. Tom She.
Verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
All right. So armor, you understand, armor is to protect you once the threat has reached your body. That's armor. So body armor, or prevent it from reaching your body, whether it's a shield. All right. So it's to prevent once you get hit from the attack. So we all like to be, feel like we're going to get in a fight. And when we get in a fight, we ain't going to get hit. We all like to believe that. Hey, I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna throw a left hand. I'm gonna start with 2 jabs. Then I'm gonna fake low and come with an overhand. Right? It sounds great. And I'm gonna knock him out. But like Mike Tyson said, we all got a plan until we get punched in the face. You gonna get hit. So when you get hit, you ain't got no choice. When you in a professional match, there's no body gear. There's no armor. You get hit. That's it. The only armor you got is over your fists. And maybe your cup for your groin area. But in life, you don't have that. So you would not intentionally want to get into a war without armor. So why would we do that spiritually? So because the wiles of the devil's been doing this so long, he's such a perfectionist at dealing with the flesh, that you're gonna get hit. You're going to sin. You're going to make mistakes. And that's when you need the armor of Yah to protect you, so that the blow that hits you don't knock you out. Don't knock out all your spirit. Just like in life, don't knock out all your blood. That's your spirit, right? Tom She?
Verse 13. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the good news of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim.
Hallelujah. So let's break that down. All right. So the whole armor of Elohim. So it is your whole body. It don't just cover your body, your body armor or your head armor or whatever, your whole body. So the whole body of Mashiach is covered under this. Yasharal. All right. Stand having your loins girt about with truth. You got to have your pants tied up. You can't be walking with your pants hanging off your behind. You can't play basketball like that. You can't box like that. That's why they be walking like ducks. These little young brothers trying to, they pants hanging. You can't run up on nobody like that. You can't get out the way. So have your loins girt about with truth. That means when you move left or right, you're not tripping on yourself because you're moving according to the truth. So your movements are tight and precise with balance. Having on the breastplate of righteousness. What is your breastplate? That is over your chest, your heart. Your heart represents your mind. Your mind is being protected by righteousness, the law of righteousness, the thought of righteousness, trying to do the right thing. When you meditate on your bed, when you wake up, when you sleep, righteousness. Your feet shod with the preparation of the good news of peace. Your movement and what's protecting your feet is your preparation of the good news of peace. The kingdom of Yah is near. It's coming. Mashiach is returning. Above all, take the shield of faith. You might get hit, and you got to believe that hit is not going to knock you out. I done been in situations, I won't say combat, but situations where I've been fighting, and I took hard hits, my head hit the ground hard or something, and I had that split second like, oh man, I'm finna be knocked out. And when a brother ain't knocked me out, oh, you messed up. I'm still here. I'm still in the fight. You got to have that faith. Because if you just give up, you gonna go to sleep, period. And that's how this walk is in life. Your light will get put out just like that if you go to sleep. And take the helmet of salvation. Salvation in Hebrew, Yeshua. Salvation. Your head is Christ, this word, Mashiach. And your weapon, the sword of the Spirit, the word of Yah. Praise Yah. Go ahead and finish that, verse 20.
Verse 17. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints.
Oh, we forget that part. We leave that out. We're ready for all the warrior stuff, right? We ready to fight. We got the helmet. We got all the, and we forget this part. Praying always. That's the fighting. You praying with what? With word. You're praying according to what? The word of Yah. So praying is a very important part. With all prayer and supplication in the Spirit. So not only you got to pray and watch. You got to sit back. To watch means you got to wait and watch for the prayer to be answered. But you got to have that faith. You got to have that shield of faith where you believe. If you don't believe, then why would you expect something to come true? It's not a genie in a bottle.
If I could just say, when I see it here, it says, watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. So it really tells you that we're not in this battle alone. And I think we all get caught up in our own battles and what's going on with our own walk and whatnot, that we forget that we're part of a body. And so we have to also make sure that, as we're saying, that we're praying for others, and that we're, when it says supplication, that we're doing the things we can to support, our brothers and sisters who are also in the walk, because, we're, like I said, we're part of a body, so we're all intrinsically connected. So we need to remember that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all connected. And, again, we talking about the spiritual war that we face with. Well, what about, people that had to deal with real wars. We got real veterans that had to go to real wars. How does this affect one another? It's going to affect the husband that's going to war and the wife. And in this wicked country, the wife that's going to war and her husband. We affect one another. So we have to have all perseverance. We have to persevere the effects of being at war for thousands of years. The effects of the traumas that we have faced. And like I said, they send our women to war. Well, spiritually, it's the same thing. They got our women out here leading congregations, sending her to war. We got our women out here fighting battles, personally, without coverings. The men dead, they in jail, or the men take off, they're not doing nothing, leaving the woman to fight for herself. Single mothers, situations like that. We affect one another.
Verse 19. And for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the good news, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak.
Praise Yah. All right. So again, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but we wrestle with principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. All right. So we got to consider that. All right. So in understanding this fight, this battle, this striving that we have to do, we have to understand who we are, and we have to understand what we come from. We are a different breed. We built for this war. We built for this battle. No other nation of people would have survived what we're surviving today. This is not a black thing. This is a nation of Yasharal, the dispersed. That's a different thing. And it's happening right now across the world. In Africa, it's happening in the United States. It's happening in the Middle East. It's happening in Asia. It's happening in the Caribbean. Look at Jamaica. The whole of Jamaica lost power. We at war. How coincidental is that to Cuba, who lost power? All right, so let's move on. And as I said that, the power went off here today in Atlanta. All right, so let's go to Shemot, Exodus chapter 15. We got to understand who our Abba is, so you're not confused when you find yourself at war. Abba meaning father for the new Hebrews. You got to understand who our father is. You don't know who your father is. You walking around here acting like a pussycat, and you really a lion. Something's wrong here. You don't know who you are. You purring like a little pussycat, but you supposed to be roaring. You a lion. You look like a lion. You don't even know it, but you running around with a bunch of pussycats, not knowing, because you don't know who you are. You don't know who your father is. Well, let's see who our father is. The Elohim of Yasharah, the Al of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Shemot, Exodus chapter 15. Let's read 1 through 13.
All right. Exodus 15 and verse 1. Then sang Moshe and the children of Yasharal this song unto Yahweh, and spake, saying, I will sing unto Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider has he thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. He is my El, and I will prepare him a habitation. My father is Elohim, and I will exalt him.
Praise Yah. So this is who Yah is, right? Yah is our strength, our song. He has become our Yahweh Shai, or Yeshua, our salvation, our savior, our Yeshua, right? He is my Elohim. I will prepare him a habitation. All right, so we will prepare him a house. We preparing a house. He's a spirit. Those that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. So this is a spiritual house. We're supposed to prepare a spiritual house for Yah. So if you are housing a blacksmith, then you're going to have metal gear and you're going to have fires and you're going to have steel and iron and things around for him because you're preparing a house for a blacksmith. If you're preparing a house for a musician, then you're going to have studios, you're going to have music equipment, you're going to have acoustics, you're going to have all kinds of things to support that. So who are we preparing a house for? Verse 3.
Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name.
So Yahweh is a man of war. The Olive Abraham, the Olive Yashak, the Olive Yaakov. He's a man of war, a warrior. You gonna prepare a house for him? What you gonna prepare? A clown house, a fun house, a whore house? He's a holy warrior. So you have to prepare a house that fits the spirit that he wants to set there. And he's a man of war. And you best believe if he wars, it's righteousness. It's not like this Babylonian war, this Sodom Gomorrah war, this war of misinformation. That we ain't talking about that war. This is a war of righteousness. So you're going to have to prepare a righteous habitation for him. Verse 4.
Pharaoh's chariots and his hosts has he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. The right hand, O Yahweh, is become glorious in power. Your right hand, O Yahweh, has dashed in pieces the enemy.
All right, so he ain't talking about he got your enemy to surrender and, he sent them back. He's dashing them into pieces. He's slaughtering, drowning, and he can use any of his creation to destroy his own creation. This is why Pharaoh was raised up for that very purpose, to show his might. Then he used his own creation, the Red Sea, to drown him via his own creation, Moshe. Time sheet.
And in the greatness of your excellency have you overthrown them that rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath, which consumed them as stubble.
All right. And Shabbat Shalom to my big brother, Meliki Yasharel. Good to see you, family. And Shabbat Shalom to your lovely wife.
Verse 8. And with the blast of your nostrils, the waters were gathered together. The flood stood upright as a heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them.
What you concerned about what the enemy say? The enemy is the adversary. They adverse to Yah. Who cares what they said? That has no relevance to your truth. So why are we concerned with what the enemy said? Be concerned with what Yah said. We always so concerned about gossip and what this person said, that person said. We so worried about, what they saying against us. Why are we not more worried about what Yah said and making sure we aligned with that? Verse 10.
You did blow with your wind. The sea covered them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. Who is like unto you, O Yahweh, among the mighty? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders?
Fearful in praises. Even when you praise him, there's fearful. There's hey, don't overdo it. Make sure you humble yourself. Make sure you coming correct. Make sure you ain't showing up empty-handed, all that type of stuff, right? Who is like Yah among the mighty ones on the earth? Holiness, glorious. That's the God we serve. That's the Elohim we serve. And you're going to prepare a house for him? and you that house, and this is what you presenting? You wouldn't do that to Donald Trump. You wouldn't do that to any other kings of the earth, Prince Charles or whoever. You wouldn't do none of them. You wouldn't do that to Chris Brown. I mean, come on. Tom Sheep.
Verse 12, you stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. You in your mercy have led forth the people which you have redeemed. You have guided them in your strength unto your holy habitation.
All right, let's stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 51. So you creating a house for the Most High Yah. That's what his people do. So we've created a house for him. The churches of Mashiach, right? The assemblies of Mashiach. We've created a house for him. Now we know who the owner is. He's a man of Yah. He's a man of war, right? So how are we supposed to make that house? It should be fit. If there's a house of a musician, there should be some music in there, some instruments of music, something to play the music. Were you in a house of a man of war? Then what kind of instruments are going to be in his house? We those instruments, brothers and sisters. We those instruments. Jeremiah chapter 51. Let's start that at verse 1.
All right, 1 second. Jeremiah 51.
Yes, sir. And verse 1. Jeremiah 51 and verse 1.
All right. Thus says Yahweh, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind.
All right, so destroying wind, like tornado, hurricane, something like that, or a destroying spirit. Verse 2, because wind is ruach, means spirit.
Verse 2, and will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. Against him that bends, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifts himself up in his brigandine, and spare you not her young men, destroy you utterly all her host. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. For Yasharal has not been forsaken, nor Judah of his Elohim, of Yahweh of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Yasharal.
All right,
Flee out of the
so it's talking about the land of the Chaldeans. So geographically, the land of the Chaldeans is like Iraq. Babylon is Iraq. All right, so in Iraq, they're saying Israel has not been forsaken. And when you see that and you look at where it is historically, then you think that they're talking about Iraq, right? Or when you see Israel, you think they're talking about the state of Israel that the United Nations put into place in 1940 something, right? But that's not who they're talking about. That's not what this prophecy is talking about. When it's talking about Babylon, it's talking about spiritual Babylon. All right. And that's this system, this Roman system, this revived Holy Roman system. And when it's talking about Israel, it's talking about Yasharal, it's talking about biblical Israel. There's a difference between biblical Yasharal, the people of the Bible, the sons of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov, the 12 tribes, and then you have the state of Israel, Israeli. That's not the same thing. And that's not anti-Semitism. That's just history and facts. Now you want to get into who the chosen people are. Listen, that's a whole different discussion. We just talking about bloodline. Afro-Asiatic Semitic bloodline. If you don't have Afro, you don't have Asiatic, you're not Semitic, then you're not biblical Yasharal. All right, Tom Sheep.
Verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her recompense.
All right, so when are you fleeing out of Babylon? It says, deliver every man his soul. Deliver your life. Don't be cut off in her iniquity. What was iniquity again? Brother Yafi Yehuda said sin. Transgression of the law. So don't be cut off in their transgression. They the ones saying, hey, send the women out to fight. They're the ones that say, hey, you born a male, hey, have it your way. You can be a woman. And if you call this Shem a man, then you being racist. You being, that's a terror attack. So don't be cut off in her wickedness. Flee out the mist. So some of us have to be removed from Babylon. When there's a fire going on in the building, the civilians get out first. The women and children get out first. The leaders, the servants, they the last to go because they got to direct people out. All right. But you got to all flee out of the mentality of Babylon, which is confusion, thinking that there's any other way other than Yah's way. That's confusion. All right, verse 7.
Babylon has been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies.
All right, so we would have healed Babylon, right? But she not healed. Forsake her. Everybody go to their own country. So how are you going to go to your own country if America is your country? If you believe that you indigenous to America, how is this prophecy going to be fulfilled? You're going to go back to your own place? You're going to go back to the place that's being destroyed? And no, that doesn't make any sense. Because Babylon, spiritual Babylon or spiritual daughter of Babylon, is not given a proportion in the table of nations. That doesn't belong to anybody. We've migrated to this place. So when it's being destroyed, everybody has to migrate to their own nationality. Religion and politics, all that being destroyed is going back to bloodline. Go back to where you come from. Because there ain't going to be a religion. It's going to be one way, righteousness or die.
Verse 10. Yahweh has brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Yahweh our Elohim. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Yahweh has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple.
All right, praise Yah. And we got a comment in. I see what I have to do. What I have to do with on the Israelite Gathering Facebook account, I got to get out the live stream, then come back in the live stream, and then I count the number of comments, and then I'll know when a comment was made. So that's ridiculous that we got to do this, but that's just what's going on. So Brother Meliki said 1948. That's when the United Nations set up the state of Israel, mainly by United States and Britain. The Israel, Yasharal in this Bible ain't started in no 1948, bro. But this state, quote unquote, like the brother put, not nation, but a state, that means it was set up 1948. So you have people still alive. Your parents probably were born right after that. Most of us. You can get on YouTube and see videos of this. There was actual film around. There was stuff that you could document what happened. All right, Tom Sheen.
Just real quick, I really like the way that verse 10 is worded. It says, Yahweh has brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Yahweh Elohim. And it
Hallelujah.
really shows you, it goes back to that whole idea of providing him a dwelling place. All we can do is provide for him a habitation, but it's not of us. It's him that's actually doing and working that righteousness through us.
Hallelujah. Judah, and you will show forth praise by tribe specifically. We're supposed to do that. But we were created to show forth the praise of Yah as a nation. Hallelujah.
Praise Yah. Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 12. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes. For Yahweh has both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. O you that dwell upon many waters, abundant in treasures, your end is come, and the measure of your covetousness.
All right, so we talking about dwelling upon many waters. Where are all these ships at? All of our destroying ships all the way out there in the Strait of Hormuz, they can't get in the Strait, right? But they all out there, they all in Africa, they all in the Pacific, they everywhere, right? Our government, our so-called embassies are everywhere in all these countries, and everywhere we put an embassy, there's some kind of insurrection, some kind of problem. And oh, what a coincidence. We so happen to be there to save the day, right? So who else is doing that? I don't see Iraq doing that. So who they talking about? I don't see Britain doing that. Who they talking about? You see Britain said, nah, we straight. We ain't going over there. Good luck, Israel and United States. We not doing that.
Verse 14. Yahweh of hosts has sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill you with men, as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against you. He has made the earth by his power, he has established the world by his wisdom, and has stretched out the heaven by his understanding. When he utters his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causes the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He makes lightnings with rain, and brings forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish by his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish.
All right, so when Yah shows up in their life, that's an extreme consuming fire. And that's kind of like the burning bush, all right? The burning bush, it's made out of tree, wood burns. You burn it every day, right? Well, if you made out of wood, hay, or stubble, you finna burn. And we all made out of wood, hay, and stubble. But with the Ruach HaKodesh, with his spirit and his faith, we could be that thing that's supposed to perish, like the three Hebrews in the furnace in Daniel. If we have that one like unto this, looking like the Son of Man with us, we can be that perishable thing that does not perish. So when Yah visits us, we will not perish. We will burn impurities. But what about the portion of Yaakov, verse 19?
The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Yasharah is the rod of his inheritance. Yahweh of hosts is his name.
So Yaakov is not like them. He's the former of all things. Like I said, when we said in Exodus, right? We Exodus 15. We have to choose. We making a habitation for him. What kind of habitation are we going to choose to make for a man of war, a man of righteousness that loves righteous judgment? Well, one says, "Hey, I'm going to make a house for him, right? I'm going to make a righteous house. I'm going to make sure that they're skilled in the type of war that Yah deals in, right?" And another house said, "Oh, I'm going to be like Pharaoh. I'm gonna go do what I want to do. I want to be wicked. So y'all gonna let you be wicked. So now y'all can show his might in you. You got to choose what you gonna do. But this choice was made for us. The other nations can choose. This choice was made for us. This is why, whether we know or not, we have to make a choice that we're going to move with the choice that we have to agree with the choice that was made for us. If we disagree and move against it, we're going to keep getting the rod. We're going to keep getting the punishment because we fighting against something we don't know. That's why it's not our job to judge anybody. It's just make people aware of the truth and let them decide. At least they can affect the truth in the right way if they choose to. But you can if you don't know. You can build a house. You building a house for a ballet dancer because you don't know who your dad is. At least if I tell you your dad is a warrior, okay, let me build a house built for a warrior. At least you can try. You might still build a ballet house. That's on you, but at least you can try to build a house for him. Verse 20.
You are my battle axe and weapons of war. For with you will I break in pieces the nations, and with you will I destroy kingdoms.
Oh, so now it makes sense. Yah's a man of war. We building a habitation. And he's saying inside this habitation that you building for him, he said, is you, my battle axe, my war hammer. That's what a battle axe is, a war hammer. You, my weapons of war. Well, don't it make sense? If he's a man of war, what you think you gonna be? And what war you think you fighting? The war in the Middle East? The war in Iran? The war, Vietnam War? World War One? What war you think you fighting? You fighting the war of good versus evil, righteousness versus wickedness, flesh versus the spirit. And you the battle axe, you the weapons of war for Yah. And what is this weapon supposed to do? Verse 21.
And with you will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with you will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. With you also will I break in pieces man and woman, and with you will I break in pieces old and young, and with you will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. I will also break in pieces with you the shepherd and his flock, and with you will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with you will I break in pieces captains and rulers.
All right. So in one hand, some of us is going to be chosen to take the physical aspect of that, the warriors. You're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to destroy whatever get in Yah's way when that time comes, when we're in that season. We're in the grace period, so that's not our season. And with others, you're going to break apart these people that are in these roles and break the fleshliness down, to break the wickedness down, to help them kill the old man so they can be transformed into ministers of light, so they can be transformed into bearers of the light, of righteousness. And we going to do that with Yah's word, not us. They're not going to follow us. They're going to follow Yah's word. They might follow the example that we exhibit Yah's word, and that's going to be shepherds, husbandmen, young men, old men, rulers, captains, all that, because all these people, there's going to be a remnant of all those people, all those type of people that are going to repent. That's why we are not to judge. There's always a remnant out of every nation, out of every tribe, out of every leadership, or out of every wicked camp. There's going to be a remnant. And this is the grace period.
Verse 24. And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, says Yahweh. Behold, I am against you, O destroying mountain, says Yahweh, which destroys all the earth. And I will stretch out my hand upon you and roll you down from the rocks and will make you a burnt mountain.
All right, we can stop right there. All right, it just talks furthermore about the unrepairable destruction that's going to come to this system that they're enslaving us at this time. All right, so let's move on. We're going to go back into the Apocrypha. We're going to go to 2nd Maccabees chapter 2. So again, We saw that we are Yah's battle axe, his weapons of war to destroy anything that comes in Yah's way, whether it be physical, spiritual, metaphysical, metaphoric, whatever it is. We dare to destroy it in righteousness. All right. So Second Maccabees, we're going back into the Apocrypha, chapter 2, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And again, if you weren't here earlier when we said it, if you need access to any of these readings in the Apocrypha, so forth and so on, we have an excellent reading plan in our cell phone mobile app, or you can visit the website, and you can even download on the app copies of these writings. So Second Maccabees chapter 2, let's start this at verse 1.
It is also found in the records that Jeremiah, the prophet, commanded them that were carried away to take of the fire, as it has been signified. And how that the prophet, having given them the law, charged them not to forget the commandments of Yahweh.
I'm sorry. I think I got this wrong again. I don't know what happened today. It's got too much on my mind today, brothers and sisters. I apologize. I think we're in First Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 2. So I did have it correct. Not Second Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 2. So I had it incorrect.
All right. First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 1. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joarib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Johanan, called Caddis, Simon, called Thasi, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar, called Arvaron, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphas. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers? Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy.
As it is to this day. Verse 10.
What nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils?
As it is to this day. What nation? The only nation that I can think of that I can't see on record had a part in this, interestingly enough, was Russia. That's sad. I mean, historically, that's the only one I can find. But go ahead.
All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she has become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer?
So it's talking about the Gentiles profaning the sanctuary. They physically did it. They physically polluted the sanctuary, put idols, was putting pork and all kind of stuff in there. And then it moved from there to a spiritual defilement where they're defiling us. We, the sanctuary of Yah. That sanctuary been pulled down. There's a whole other people, like we said, and since 1948, there's a whole other people that's claiming to be us. Before that, it was called Palestine. But all the way to 1948, it's been taken over. So that's what they have done to us. They have profaned us. So this happens physical as an example to show you what's going to happen spiritual. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice.
To make them sacrifice to idols. And what are they sacrificing? The same thing that when our people unknowingly are sacrificing to idols on these folly days. What are you eating on these folly days or these hella days? Pork, all kind of unclean food and ham hocks and all kind of weird stuff you ain't supposed to be eating. Well, we used to have to eat it because it was thrown over to the slaves. They gave us the worst part of everything, right? Well, it started with them forcing us to eat it in our temple or die. Now we doing it voluntarily. Tom Sheep.
Verse 16. And when many of Yasharal came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, You are a ruler and an honorable and a great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore come you first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shall you and your house be in the number of the king's friends, and you and your children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
So you can't be fooled by the heathen like you don't know how they operate. Come get the honorable, the best of our people, get them on their team and get them to go against Yah's law. Make the king God, make the king your most high, not the most high. If you do it, your brethren will follow. And that's what you're seeing in these 501c3 camps. These brothers are knowledgeable. Some of them don't know what they're talking about. A lot of them, especially the new younger ones that are rising up, they know what they're talking about. So when they bring these false doctrines, if you understood this thing over here, I know you understood this other thing, but you're delivering it. Come fulfill the king's commandment. That's where these weird doctrines is coming from. Straight out the Catholic Church. Yah and Yahweh Shai the same. Yahweh Shai is the most high, and all this weird doctrine. The Sabbath day is not the Sabbath day. It's any other day, not Sabbath. So one says it's Sunday, somebody else gonna say it's Wednesday. Who cares? It's the same movement. Get away from the seventh day. Same movement since the beginning. This is why they pulled these books out. They don't want you to see how easy it is to understand this. Verse 19.
Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away, every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
Who's saying that today? And it's one thing to say it with your mouth. You saying it with your pocketbook and your feet? Yet will I and my sons and my brothers walk in the covenant of our fathers. I don't care about what y'all doing. Verse 21.
Allahim forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances.
Right.
We
and
will
the
not
same
hearken.
thing they said, shall we keep the law since the the law is done away with? Shall we sin? Elohim forbid. Because the only thing, and I saw it on the show with the sisters, the Christians versus Hebrews versus Jewish or whatever. One of the sisters said, it was a great show, by the way. One of the sisters said, they asked her, is the law done away? She said, nope. The only law that was done away with is the law of animal sacrifices. Everything else intact. Just that simple. So should we forbid the law? Forsake the law? Elohim forbid. Same words.
Verse 22. We will not hearken to the king's words, to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
Okay, because what's on the right? Fire. What's on the left? Exceedingly deep water. Verse 23.
Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Yahudim in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Which thing, when Matthias saw it, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
All right, so we got a term for that, for people like that. That's running up there trying to keep the king's commandment to sacrifice to idols, right? That type of sellout, we call them coons. You over here cooning for the government, right? Or cooning for the man, right? Well, guess what? You're gonna be the first to go. You're gonna be the first taken off the block because you don't have no help either direction. You ain't got it from us, and you definitely ain't got it from them. Tomshi? And they've shown you that, because what happens to them when they finish using you?
Verse 25. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of Elohim, like as Phinehas did unto Zambri, the son of Shalom. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintains the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them.
All right. So we a body. Although our father's a man of war, there's many different stages of war. It takes a lot of things to win a war. You got the people that make the weapons. You got the people that use the weapons. You got the people that direct the weapons. It's multiple people. Then you got the people that feed the people that make the weapons. Then you got people that heal the people that get hit with the weapons. Then you got the people that take the accounting. You got a lot of different jobs. Everybody is not the active warrior. But there's going to come a time when you're going to have to make a decision in your life. What are you? Are you a warrior or are you not? And that decision might be life or death. And you're going to have to choose. Go ahead.
Verse 31. Now when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were going down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Shabbat day.
All right. So we know our law says on the Shabbat, we can't start fires. That, that is start wars, start issues, strive with people. We're supposed to be using Yah's words, Yah's thoughts. We're supposed to be doing holy things, right? So we're not even supposed to bring in swords and things like that on the Shabbat day. We're supposed to leave burdens behind, anything that involves physical, right? But they out there in the camp, and now they're being attacked on the Sabbath day. So the law is peace. The law of Sabbath is peace, rest. How am I going to fight somebody if I'm supposed to be resting? Well, you're going to have to make a decision. Let's see what they decided. Verse 33.
And they said unto them, Let that which you have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and you shall live. But they said, We will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Shabbat day.
All right, so they made a choice. They made a good choice. They did the right choice. We not finna profane the Sabbath day. We not finna go here and how they wanted to profane it, to sacrifice the idols. We definitely not going to do that on the Sabbath day, much less any other day. All right, so they did the right thing, but you have to decide, what are you? Your father's a man of war, but your father's a little complex. He's a God, king, high priest. So it's a little complex. He wears multiple hats. Sometimes you got to be the priest. Sometimes you have to be the mighty one, the God. And sometimes you got to be the warrior. All right. Verse 34.
That dichotomy between the lion and the lamb.
Amen.
Verse 34. But they said, we will not come forth, and neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Shabbat day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us that you put us to death wrongfully. So they rose up against them in battle on the Shabbat, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people.
Wow. So, I'm not going to speak against my ancestors because obviously this is a spirit. This is a spirit that will allow somebody to sit there. I don't care what day of the week it is, and let them slaughter your wives and your children and your livestock because it's the Sabbath day. Any day of the week, if you throw a brick up in the air and say heads up, and people look and see a brick, everybody gonna throw their hands up in the air and try to protect themselves. They're not gonna say, well, because it's Sabbath day, I ain't gonna work. I'm gonna let the brick knock me out. So obviously there was a spirit on these brothers and sisters. And it had to be some kind of righteous spirit because they said, no, we're not going to do wickedness. We're not going to profane the Sabbath day. We're not going to keep the king's commandment over Yah's commandment. So I believe that there had to be a spirit of Yah that allowed them to make that sacrifice. That was chosen for them. Now, if that ain't chosen for you, you better choose what you going to do. Keep reading.
Verse 39. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore.
All right, so of course you mourn for your brothers and sisters that could not defend themselves, that were slaughtered for standing up for righteousness. You mourn for them. Verse 40.
And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Shabbat day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
Right. So if we do not stand up and fight for our lives and our laws, sometimes you might have to give up that life because of that law. You got to allow your life, you got to give up your life. He who fights to save his life gonna lose it. He who fights and loses his life will gain it. Fights to lose, is not afraid to lose his life will gain it, right? So there's a time and place, but when you need to stand up for your life and Yah's law, that's the time to stand up. You're fighting for your life and laws of righteousness, it's time to fight. So again, if we built a house for Yah, we have to be prepared to defend that house by any means necessary, because if we don't, the heathen will root us out of this earth. Let's get back to this fight. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 6, and then we have one more for the conclusion. And we're going to read 6 through 18. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6 through 18.
All right, 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 6. But godliness with contentment is great gain.
All right, so righteousness with contentment. Just because you do the right thing, but you got a bad attitude, every time everything you do come with a stipulation and all the, there's not going to be no gain because you're burning up your works. But when you do righteousness and you're content with whatever the result is, it might not immediately gain, but you're going to receive great gain. Verse 7.
Contentment is also a shield against covetousness.
Absolutely. Great comment.
Verse 7, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content.
Okay, so that's when you're content. Do you have food? You got a shirt and a coat to keep you warm? Then be content. Y'all got everything else. He's the only reason you alive, not because you an excellent warrior or you so smart. Verse 9.
But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition.
And that's why y'all can't grant us with the full treasury of our royalty and our royalness. Because we're going to fall in all kind of snares and find new foolish lusts, pedophilia and oxycodone and all these weird things because we got money now to satisfy our lusts. The best thing y'all did is make us a poor people. Go ahead.
For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows.
So apply what you just said, how contentment is an adversary to covetousness, right? I just kind of paraphrase what you said, right? So, well, money, you need money. Money solves all problems, right? But when you content with what Yah allows you to have, you make it work. That is a barrier against the love of money and being covetous of people that have money, because you being appreciative of the money that Yah allowed you to have, because you've been with worse and maybe you've been with more, but you're here. So money is not bad. It's covetousness is bad. Having a lot of money is not bad. Thinking a lot of money is all for you, bad. You have more than you need is to help somebody. You better find out who you're supposed to help. Tom Sheep.
Just a real quick, people look at that whole Diddy situation, and as crazy as it is, when you understand the darkness and the depths of the human heart, then
Right.
you realize like the lesson in that is like, hey, how many people would be Diddy or even worse if they had the resources and the opportunities and the options to go down that path? There's no guarantee, like you say, like the scriptures say, some people have erred from the faith. You can't promise that you would err from the faith, that you wouldn't err from the faith if you were just suddenly entrenched in $1 billion or what I'm saying, in crazy wealth. You can't promise that. You don't know what kind of darkness is lying in your heart that will be exposed, or that will be that'll be exposed if you were put in that situation. So like you said, it's really a thankful thing that a lot of us aren't in that situation.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's not condoning, by the way, any of that stuff.
Right. Absolutely. And just imagine being in that situation since a young man in your 20s. Your 20s, the kind of foolish stuff that I done did, and most of us have done in our 20s. I couldn't do half the damage I could have did. If I'm where I'm at now, financially and just connections and wisdom and everything like that, if I had the same abilities back then, man, I'd have killed myself having access to the things I got access now, the people I got access to now. So imagine somebody just dropped upon them, and then add fame to that. Fame alone, you don't even got to be rich. Just the fame is enough. And that's why they figured it out. Look, it ain't about getting a bunch of money no more, man. We can just get views. We can corrupt people with views. You got 1 million views and you ready to sell your soul. You ain't made $1. 1 million hits on Spotify get you maybe $100 or something. What was the number, baby? With Spotify? 300,000 streams is $900. $900. Imagine selling 300,000 singles or whatever. Or they realize it ain't about, look, just, people will sell their soul for a video, for a like, for a TikTok challenge, just for people to see them on TV or on the internet. All right, verse 11.
But you, O man of Elohim, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness. Fight the good fight of faith, lay hold on eternal life, whereunto you are also called, and have professed a good profession before many witnesses.
So fighting this good fight of faith, you got to have faith that it's going that what y'all say is going to be true. Because I'm throwing these punches, it's technically all punches supposed to come inward. So like my Ak and I were talking about earlier before class, I keep slipping. I keep parrying. All punches supposed to come inward. The human body, that's how punches operate. They come inward. Why am I still getting hit? But I got to have faith. Hey, I'm taking a lick and I'm taking a beating, but I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to let up. Because I know if I let up, I'm going to lose. Because Yah said you will lose if you let up, if you let go of that tilling, if you let go. So you got to have faith. Everything Yah said is true. Just because it don't happen as soon as you want it to happen, you got to act like it happened already. So those that don't believe can learn to believe when it does happen.
Verse 13, I give you charge in the sight of Elohim, who quickens all things, and before Yahushua Mashiach, who before Pontius Pilate witnessed the good confession, that you keep this commandment without spot, unrebukable, until the appearing of our master, Yahushua Mashiach.
All right. And let's look at this. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 14. You notice they put this in there with that little gray. You see it in your book? You shall keep this command. What, like this? It would have said, you shall keep commandment without spot, unrebukable until the appearing of our Adonai. They try to add little things to try to make stuff differently. Keep the commandments. Tom Sheep.
Which in his times he shall show, who is the blessed and only potentiate, the King of kings and Master of masters, who only has immortality, dwelling in the light which no man can approach unto, whom no man has seen nor can see, to whom be honor and power everlasting. Amen. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living Elohim, who gives us richly all things to enjoy. That they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life.
All right, praise Yah. We stop right there. All right, so let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 10 for the conclusion. Zechariah chapter 10. So, the Sabbath, typically we don't get into all this war and, that type of stuff. But we're in some severe times, brothers and sisters. And we got to be willing to fight on the Shabbat if it means protecting our lives and our laws. We had to fight in 2020 when they told us that we couldn't keep Shabbat in person. We had to fight for our lives and our law because they were threatening, coming in people's houses, throwing people in jail, doing all kind of stuff. When they told us we got to shut up about the murder that was going on through medical care, we had to choose on the Shabbat between lives and laws, saving lives and keeping our law. You have to be comfortable with this fight because your father is a man of war, and we are physically in war as a nation, and we are at war within a nation and at war within ourselves. So only way, Yah's the only way we're going to win this. We got too much stacked against us. Zechariah chapter 10 for the conclusion.
All right, Zechariah chapter 10 and verse 1. Ask you of Yahweh rain in the time of the latter rain. So Yahweh shall make bright clouds and give them showers of rain to every one grass in the field. For the idols have spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie, and have told false dreams. They comfort in vain. Therefore, they went their way as a flock. They were troubled because there was no shepherd. My anger was kindled against the shepherds, and I punished the goats. For Yahweh of hosts has visited his flock, the house of Jehoiada or Judah, and has made them as his goodly horse in the battle.
LL Cool J was the first person I heard use that term, goats. He called himself the goat. That was the first time I heard that term. And around that time is when, his movements was starting to look shaky. It was very coincidental. Now everything talking about the goat, the goat, the goat. They got the symbol of the ram, the goat, the little NASA, the little fake NASA mission, and all they got a upside down goat, all the Illuminati, Baphomets, all that weird stuff. So look at what they pushing. Who do you want to be? You want to be identified with the goat? Verse 4. And before we move on, we had a few comments that just came in. Brother Meliki, hallelujah. We are vessels, servants, and seed droppers. Amen, my brother. Amen. And Brother Yafi said, yep, just like Yaakov, he don't let go until he get that blessing. Amen.
Zechariah chapter 10 and verse 4. Out of him came forth the corner, out of him the nail, out of him the battle bow, and out of him every oppressor together. And they shall be as mighty men which tread down their enemies in the mire of the streets in the battle. And they shall fight, because Yahweh is with them, and the riders on horses shall be confounded.
So we will fight because Yah is going to be with us. He gonna be with us. But you gotta have that faith, because what we fighting against gotta be miraculous. It can't be, it's a 2-on-2 and you and your bro get the best of the two. It's gonna be miraculous, because the world gotta see who we are. If you don't know who we are, after all we've done in sports, all we've done in music, all we've done in science, all we've done in government, all we've done in agriculture, all we've done in inventions, all we've done in survival, all we've done in language, all we've done, and you still don't see who we are? Imagine what has to happen for the world to recognize who we are. You think you took down a Goliath before? Hold what you got. Trust me. Tom Shee.
Verse 6. And I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph, and I will bring them again to place them, for I have mercy upon them. And they shall be as though I had not cast them off, for I am Yahweh their Elohim, and will hear them.
And he will hear them. He said, I will strengthen the house of Yahweh. People looking at you like, how are you still here? Didn't you have cancer? How are you still here? How didn't you go to jail? Didn't you get shot? Didn't you get abandoned? Didn't you messed up? How are you still here? Yah strengthening the house of Yahweh. We last in everything, but we number one in everything. Verse 7.
And they of Ephraim shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as through wine. Yea, their children shall see it and be glad, their heart shall rejoice in Yahweh.
So whereas, David was the warrior, right? House of Judah was up high. House of David up high. It says even Ephraim, the house of Joseph, is going to be like a mighty man. The northern tribe's going to activate. We're going to be firing on all 12 cylinders. Verse 8.
I will hiss for them and gather them, for I have redeemed them, and they shall increase as they have increased.
So
and
look at that relationship, right? I will hiss for them. Hey, psst, hey, psst. Come here. Hey, you, hey, shawty, hey. Why you gotta hiss for us? You won't hiss at no lady. So he gotta entice us. Oh yeah, we a little fast, right? Yeah, we a little uncultured, right? Okay, well, he gonna hiss whatever he got to do to bring us back so he can clean us up. Verse 9.
And I will sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again.
All right, he's talking about the northern tribes. Remember, the northern tribes was the first ones to get cut off. They've been stopped keeping the commandments. That's the Israelites that's all over the world, and we're going to see where they are. These other places that are starting to return back to their culture. There was always a remnant that kept some of this. And we saw some of that on that program with the podcast where they had the Hebrews versus the Israelites, the Jewish versus the Christian versus the Hebrew Israelite. They had northern tribe people that's from all over different countries in Africa that was keeping this and understood. And you look at them, they clearly Hebrew sisters. Verse 10.
I will bring them again also out of the land of Misraim or Egypt, and gather them out of Assyria, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them.
So he's talking about putting them right back in our land, taking them out of Africa, taking them out of the Middle East and all that, where you see people look just like us over there that they're not showing you. The ones that's kids getting blown up look just like us, and placing them in Gilead and Lebanon, the northern tribes, more Gaza and all those type of areas. And where are they blowing up right now? Lebanon. They blowing up Lebanon so that you can't even go back to Lebanon. Talking about those people, that's your land. Verse 11.
And he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. And I will strengthen them in Yahweh, and they shall walk up and down in his name, says Jah.
All right. You will walk up and down in his name, Yasharah. Right? We're going to walk up and down with that name. But like we said in the beginning, you ain't never going to walk the same. If you had to struggle for that blessing, you had to fight that man, the kind of injuries you sustain to walk this walk, you ain't never going to walk the same. You'll never see me walk the way I used to walk. Been through too much pain. I understand better. I know who I am. I'm going to walk up and down in his name and his character. But you're going to have to fight for that blessing. And you prepared for this fight. Why are you prepared? Because your father is a man of war. He taught you how to fight. You were given instruction. You given cover to cover instructions of how to fight. And not only how to fight, you were given the armor. You can be the best fighter in the world, but if you don't have the armor, eventually you're going to get hit. So my brothers and sisters, I just adjure everybody. I know that this is a day of peace. Fight to keep the peace. Seek peace and ensue it. But understand this is a war. It could pop off any day. Yeah, as much as we want to relax and we don't want to get into tough things and we don't want to, get in heavy subjects so we can enjoy this time. Well, if it's a weightier matter, you got to deal with it. If I got to strap up them gloves and I got to, let me not use the wrong terms. If I got to do certain things, I got to be ready if that's the time, whether it's the Shabbat or not. But I'm not going to voluntarily do those things. So this war that we are in is to go through this straight gate. Everything is fighting against you to stop you going through the straight gate. Because if you don't go through the straight gate now, when he comes back, when his judgment, it's too late. You're trying to run through the straight gate. It's locked. It's closed. So that's all we're going to do today. My brothers and sisters, again, if you haven't already, visit our website at israelitesgathering.com. And also, again, thank you to all the viewers, anybody that is tied through Israelite Gathering on our Cash App, which is $S ATL. It's not an incredible lot of money. I know I went on a couple weeks ago, talking about how nobody do anything for us. But, people do send us stuff and we appreciate it. I'm not up here begging for money because y'all take care of us. You take care of all us. We usually able to afford everything right out of our pocket. And if we can't, another servant will take care of it. So we don't stress people. But I will tell you this, those that are giving, I know if you could, you would do more. And people find other ways to support us, to support through our businesses and purchase quality goods, which we know that money come to us going right back into the ministry. We appreciate that, but we're not here to judge nobody. If you tithing, just make sure you tithing to somebody. Make sure 1/10 of what you have, and that's not just money, goes to Yah's people, the poor, the fatherless, the widows, the people that can't take care of themselves. And if you want to do it through us, praise Yah. We'd be more than happy to do it. That's all we're going to do today. I pray everybody had a good Shabbat, Pentecost. Until the next class, Yah be with you and your family. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And as always, Shabbat Shalom, Brother Cassette.
Shabbat Shalom.